Hi folks, I'm Richard Friedman and welcome to my video cartoon for May 20th, 2026. Moving on into June, folks. June's busting out all over, pretty hot out there. Here's a cartoon for you, make cool things off, I hope. Here we got President Trump and President Xi Jinping, President Donald Trump, and here on the last leg of their summit in Beijing, China. And I'm going to read it to you to cover all the bases, to give you the basis for the cartoon. So here it is, and here's the roses, the big tree, and in the background here, and this is the way I kind of just saw it, and I just drew it. Okay, and I'm going to read the introduction to you right now. Here we go. Richard's President Trump ends China visit with President Xi, giving him a tour of Communist Party's seat of power in Beijing. So this is like an example, an analogy would be like Camp David is to the President of the United States, only this is to the Communist Party. Comparing Camp David, the President's retreat, Camp David, this would be like a Camp David for the entire Chinese Communist Party, okay, where they have peace and quiet, they relax and unwind, and that's what this is. And here they are in a garden. This is the garden attached to the complex, where very few leaders ever go, okay, according to President Xi. A tour of the Communist Party's seat of power in Beijing. And the name of it is Zhongnanhai Gardens. And that was on May 15th, 2026. Okay, there it was. There, see the roses here, the big tree. Okay, moving right into the cartoon. That is considered to be a highly secretive, tightly guarded leadership compound. Okay, that is rarely visited by world leaders during their visits. That, in the wake of Xi telling Trump that the Taiwan issue is the most critical issue in China-U.S. relations. So President Xi, he's coming right to the point. He's cutting to the chase. I think very few minutes after President Trump landed, I think he was right on it. That is the big potato, okay? Is that Taiwan issue, okay? And here we go during their visit. That, in the wake of Xi telling Trump that the Taiwan issue is the most critical issue in the China-U.S. relations, and if the matter was mishandled, Xi warned that could put, quote, the entire U.S.-China relationship in an extremely dangerous situation, okay? So you know what that means, okay? That means, I'll leave that to your imagination. I don't want to get into trouble with anybody, okay? And President Trump has framed the $14 billion arms sales package approved by Congress to Taiwan as a very good negotiating chip. So President Trump views this, the package that Congress approved, as ammunition to use against President Xi in his talks with him, going, I would assume, I think it's logical to assume this, to help getting President Xi to help him with the Iran situation, with the Iran war, in terms of the Strait and the nukes, and President Trump went out of his way to say that President Xi also agrees that Iran shouldn't have a nuclear bomb, and things like that, and they agreed on that, and that was about all they agreed on Iran, and everything was left up in the air. President Xi said, "Well, I'd like to help," but so far it's been a few days, and no sign of any help from the Chinese in resolving this conundrum problem. This problem is a real conundrum, but it's really anyway. That's what it is. Okay, so Okay, so anyway, so that's how President Trump views it. Now, going back to President Reagan and around the early 80s, President Ronald Reagan said that there'd be no discussion about anything in terms of sending arms to Taiwan. That he vowed they would never discuss with the Chinese. Now we see a crack that called strategic ambiguity. Now we see a crack. This is you can't deny. This may still be strategic ambiguity because President Trump refused to say if he would defend Taiwan against a Chinese attack, but it's a crack in the strategic ambiguity policy. Let's put it that way, from President Reagan's. Okay, that's factual. And so there you have that. Okay, so, and President Trump has framed, okay, I said that, okay, a very good negotiation, rather than a guaranteed security commitment to Taiwan. So President Trump doesn't see this as a guaranteed commitment to Taiwan. He sees it as a bargaining chip in terms of Iran, and also there's the issue of the rare earth minerals that China has stopped, and without those rare earth minerals, we don't got our defense. We can't do much in defending ourselves, especially if we're going to build the Golden Dome without rare earth minerals. That ain't going to happen. We ain't going to build too many airplanes either. That the F-47 that President Trump, his 47th president, his namesake there, F-47, ain't going to happen without rare earth minerals, unless you want to put on guns that fire water pistols, shooting out water, and you don't want to have guided things and guided that. Well, that's another story. But if you want to have the stealth and all that goes into it, you're going to need those rare earth minerals. So I'm just saying here, that's another thing that needs, I guess, has to be talked about. Okay, but anyway, so here we go, and President Trump has framed, okay, I said that, security form, and as of May 2026, President Trump has stated that Taiwan is only at the most 80 miles from China, and Taiwan is 9,500 miles from the U.S. So he's saying there's a geographical concern here, that we're so far away, 9,500 miles versus their 80 miles, So President Trump, I think in his mind, it's more convenient to take a swing like over to Cuba, 80 miles, we're 80 miles, about 80 miles away from Cuba. Well, there's more to it than that. We saw what went on today. I don't want to go into that's another thing with the trial of the Castro man there. So that's another story. But I'm just saying here that the 80 miles, President Trump doesn't want no part of a war where we have to fight the Chinese, who are just 80 miles, and we're 9,500 miles. That's a lot of gasoline to get there, a lot of ships, a lot of fuel. Let's put it that way, okay? And we are going to travel all that distance to fight a war. That's what the President said. He meant that sarcastically. And we are going to travel all that distance to fight a war? I'm not looking for that. I want them both to cool down. And also President Trump warned Taiwan against declaring independence. So he's saying to Taiwan, don't declare independence. Don't mention the word independence. Don't say nothing about independence. Shh. So there you have that. Okay? So that's another crack in strategic ambiguity, So that's not ambiguous. If President Trump is saying to them, don't say nothing about independence. I mean, that's not strategic ambiguity. That's pretty clear, So anyway, there you have that. And President Trump has said he thinks Taiwan stole our chip industry. See, President Trump now, he's aware of the people, the big industry people, the big industry folks in industry have probably told President Trump that we need those advanced chips that that Taiwan has basically a 90% share of the market, and they're very advanced, and they're things that are they're like precious metals in a way that only these are perfected, developed by man. Precious metals occur naturally, and from them we make the magnets that guide our ships and our planes and all that. That's another story. That comes as it is. But these chips, these advanced chips, microchips, and all that business, semiconductors, and all that business, that requires really hands-on technical specific knowledge, and Taiwan has built up they got a whole neighborhood, a whole area where they go from door to door, and they're all bunched together and coordinated this and coordinated that, and they got it down to a science. And President Trump is now saying, well, they should move all that stuff, take it around, put it in suitcases, wrap it up, put it in suitcases, get on a plane, and bring it over here to America. Like it was, like you were wrapping up chopped liver, or from a bar mitzvah or something, take it home, put it in a paper bag, take it home, take it home and eat it at home. That's what President Trump is saying about this is a highly technological endeavor here that they've had for 50 years, I think. And President Trump goes on to say that they stole our chip industry. Well, they built it up over there. And then there was, again, the same principle that they could do it a lot cheaper than we could. And a lot of the companies didn't want to spend the money and they wanted to get the best quality for the cheapest amount of money. And we fell in the same thing as we get all our products from China and everything like that. The same pattern there. You could see that. It's clear as day. And so that was a factor, I'm sure of that. So to say they stole it, they developed this stuff. And I read about all the technological breakthroughs they did and how they coordinated. And they I don't know. We may have developed the idea, the concept, but then it went over there because there was a mining situation here for mining the stuff that was needed to produce that and all that and this. So there was a lot of well, I'll put it very diplomatically. President Trump is a little oversimplifying to say that they just stole it from us and put it back in their suitcases and took off on a plane and went and ran away with our semiconductors. I mean, it's like stealing like they stole some kind of a iPhone from an Apple store or something. Okay, so there you have that. And President Trump has said he thinks Taiwan stole our chip industry, that it could have been stopped by tariffs. President Trump believes tariffs is his favorite word. So he said if those people who were in power then would have put tariffs on it, meaning they would have those microchips coming into America that they were buying, they could have raised up the price to the level that the Americans would have charged, then everything would have been solved. I don't know about that. But anyway, that's what President Trump says. He loves tariffs. I love tariffs, my favorite word, tariffs. Okay? Amid Trump urging Taiwan to move its entire advanced semiconductor industry to America. Okay, I've already said that. And it appears Western business leaders took the cheaper road to Taiwan for their acquisition of advanced chips. It appears that way from other things with the Chinese. We did the same thing there, in all their products. You go into a Walmart, and if you took out everything that was made in China in a Walmart, you could take your roller skates and skate around the whole store on roller skates. If you took out everything that was made in China from Walmart, you have a roller skating ring there. Or put it in a bowling alley or something. So there you have that. Which now are vital. Not only these advanced chips are vital to artificial intelligence, which is riding the whole stock market now. All this technology is what's holding up the stock market. So if AI collapses, boom, and a lot of people are gaining employment from that. And so if you lose your AI, what do you got left? You got M&Ms, with chocolate bars, Given it now appears Taiwan's expertise in microchips is also vital to much of the U.S. industry, okay? Those chips are vital to everything. The General Motors relies on semiconductors produced in Taiwan for advanced vehicle features as part of its global supply chain, along with our advanced weapon systems, as I said before, the Golden Dome and the F-47, which President Trump is looking forward to. You know, nobody wants an F-47 that can't fire any guns, has no stealth, and you have to load it up with water pistols. You know, that ain't going to do no good. So, and you need so many things there that go into this. It's just unbelievable. You know, I don't claim to be a rocket scientist, but I read and I just get the broad idea of what it's about, and I see how important those things are. So anyway, there it is, and we go into the cartoon now, and here we got, again, I'm going to introduce you here. Here's President Xi pointing to this big tree here around these roses here that President Trump was admiring the roses here, and here's President Trump here. There he is. And now we'll go into the cartoon here. Okay? Now, here goes President Xi here. And President Xi says, President Trump, this big tree, 400-year-old. So he's pointing to this big tree here. It's 400 years old. 400 years old. Okay? And President Trump retorts back, says here goes President Trump, and he's saying, they live that long? But these are the most beautiful roses I have ever seen. So President Trump really liked those roses around the tree. He really was more infatuated with the roses than he was with the big tree, you know. He said, well, that's something. 400 years is a long time, you know. So, and then you have these roses here that President Trump admired. And then you go here, President Xi takes up on that, you know, because President Xi's working his points here, and he retorts back to President Trump, me will send you their rose seeds as a gift, okay? We send rose seeds as a gift. So President Xi is going to send seeds, these seeds that produce these roses to President Trump as a gift, you know, hoping for the best, you know where that is. And then President Trump here, he responds here. Here goes President Trump. Here's President Trump. And he responds saying, those roses would be fantastic for the garden of my new drone-proof ballroom. So President Trump talked about, yesterday, he talked about the ballroom, that it's going to be drone-proof. So if a drone comes into the ballroom, you know, somebody having a big party and everything like that, the drone goes like this. Down goes the drone like a cartoon. Boom. You know, the drone don't go nothing. It just self-explodes against the wall of the ballroom. It's drone-proof, okay? Those roses would be fantastic for the garden of my new drone-proof ballroom. I don't care if China doesn't buy our Boeing planes. So President Trump says that they're going to buy 200 Boeing jet planes. I don't know. We have to see when those planes get delivered here. You know, when they get delivered to Beijing. You know, then we know. Okay, or oil, or even soybeans. Poor for the farmers, they got really hit hard that the Chinese weren't buying their soybeans. You know, but he said even soybeans. He's saying if Xi sends the seeds. If Xi sends the seeds, I say F blank blank K, Taiwan on arms sales. Okay, you already got the background that President Trump isn't too keen on arms sales to Taiwan. I've read you the whole introduction there, you know, with the geographical situation there, with the geography, with many things there that he's brought up. And so I said that's in the context of what I just read and said to you. Okay, so I say F blank blank K, Taiwan on arms sales. My ballroom is U.S. national security. He did say, President Trump did say that the ballroom was national security. So I drew that in there as a punchline here. And here he goes. Okay, and that was the whole panorama of of President Trump visiting Zhongnanhai Gardens on May 15, 2026, just before departing from his summit with President Xi in China. Okay, and there it was. Okay. All right, there it goes. Last, the roses, the big tree, President Xi, President Trump, the background garden there, and that's it. Thank you for watching my video, folks. God bless you. Hang in there through these times, and I'll see you next time. Bye.